Hello, 6th standard Cbse children. Have a good day. Have a nice day. I hope you are doing well. I am sure you have done the test also well. Correct? Hmm? Today we are going to do video number 16, continuation of our lesson body movements. Chapter 8, body movement, part 4. Okay, and all these lesson chapter 8 body movement part 1 to 3 we have been learning about the definition for locomotion and movement and human skeletal system in detail. Other than the description given in our textbook, we have learnt extra points also. Sharia. Now that continuation with the picture presentation, we are doing this video number 16 as part 4. We are continuing the lesson video 16 chapter 8 body movements part 4. Right. So far we have been learning locomotion and movement. Locomotion and movement of the body from one place to another. Locomotion is the movement of the body from one place to another. Whereas movement is the movement of the body parts. As example, I have done in detail movement of body parts as a human will move as moving their legs, hands, yeah, and the lip movement, all that we say, yeah, there are actions. Otherwise, we give the term action, right? Whereas in plants show movement only their parts as branches of the tree, stem, and leaves. And the gentle breeze will make the plant move அப்படி அழகா அப்படி கை ஆடுறப்பல stem ஆடலையா shoot system, that is movement. I hope you understand. So that movement is from showing the body parts, that is movement, right? So we have been learning definition as what are movements and locomotion. I hope you understand. And then we have learnt about the skeletal system in detail. அதைத்தான் இப்போ வந்து நம்ம picture presentation பார்க்க போறோம். Right? Now what you are seeing in this picture, it is a joint, a human skeletal system joint. Right? And one by one I will explain as we proceed further of this video. So now joint is the area where two bones are attached. Otherwise we say where two bones meet. There are three types of joints: fixed, semi-movable, that is slightly movable, and movable. Okay. Now joints which cannot move, they are immovable or unmovable, and they are called fixed joints. And the joints which can move but not freely moving, they are called slightly movable or semi-movable joint. And joints which move freely are called movable joints. I hope you follow this. So that we will continue the lesson video number 16. Okay. Now joint classification, just now what we have seen as movement or tissue type. Moving joints are immovable joint, slightly movable joint, and freely movable joint. Whereas tissues, it is நம்ம textbook இது clear கொடுக்கலை, அதனால you just understand fibrous tissue, cartilaginous tissue, and synovial structure. Right? Now we say about the bone. Yeah, it is formed of something. They are fibrous tissue. And cartilaginous tissue, as I said, in our human skeletal system, there are few bones which are very slightly flexible and showing very thin structure as tip of the nose, pinna, ear of the pinna சொல்லுவோம்ல அது அப்புறம் வந்து இந்த elbow இதெல்லாம் வந்து cartilaginous type. And synovial typically அந்த knee நம்ம முட்டு சொல்லுவோம்ல அந்த kneeல it is synovial joint. It is filled with the fluid called synovial fluid. I hope you understand. So this is joint classification. Right? Now, இது வந்து மெயினா it is dealing with the joints. ஏன்னா நிறைய picture இருக்கு. Right? Now the fibrous or fixed joints, they are immovable. Head special ஒரு orange line காமிச்சுக்கிட்டு orange line. They are fibrous joints. Right? What are they? They are fixed joints. In the skull or cranium, the joints are fixed except lower jaw. I hope you are listening. So the joints are held together by tough tissue and develops during childhood. Example, cranium. Are it clear? So first, immovable joints. Typical example, skull. Now what is the skull made up of? I said skull made up of 22 bones, where 14 bones are facial bones, 14 facial bones and 8 skull bones. Skull bones are frontal, parietal, temporal and occipital. I hope you are listening. And then slightly movable joints. Here movement is needed only to certain point. Example, vertebral column, symphysis and pubis. Pubis is the pelvic bone. And slightly movable joint, they show very little movement. Example, another vertebral column. நம்ம வந்து குனிஞ்சு நிமிர்றோம்ல, that is by the slight movement of the vertebral column. I hope you understand. And then synovial joint or freely movable joint. These joints allow movement to take place. Enga hip joint and knee joint, they are synovial joint. நம்ம hip ஆட்டுறோம்ல, இடுப்பு ஆட்டுறோம்ல, நடக்கிறது, that is synovial joint. Same way, முட்டு வந்து மடக்குறோம் பத்தியா, knee, that is synovial joint. I hope you understand. So இந்த pictureல பாரு, ஒரு மாதிரி first headல skullல orange circle இருக்குல்ல, that is immovable joint. Then இந்த rib cage பின்னாடி vertebral column வந்து அந்த red circle இருக்கு, that is vertebral column slightly movable. Right? Then blue circles are there. There are two blue circles, one on the hip region, another one on the knee region. They are freely movable joints. I hope you understand. So this is for types of joints. What are they? Fibrous joints or fixed joints, cartilaginous or slightly movable joint, and synovial or freely movable joint. Okay. The next one, freely movable joint. All moving parts are held together by ligaments. What I said, the ligaments are the tissues which are attaching two bones. Now we say joint is a place where two bones meet. Yeah. Then how are they? They are attached to each other by ligaments. Okay. So all the moving parts are held together by ligaments. And most joints are of this sort. Most joints are this freely movable type. There are 6 types. என்னெல்லாம் பாரு. Ball and socket joint, pivot joint, hinge joint, and condyloid joint. நம்ம bookல இல்லை, பார்த்துக்கோங்க. Wrist portionல condyloid joint, and then the handல saddle joint and gliding joints. I repeat, ball and socket joint, hinge joint, condyloid joint, gliding joint, and saddle joint and pivot joint. But in our textbook, it is given only about pivot joint, the neck portion of the that pivot joint, ball and socket joint, and the shoulder hip ball and socket joint, hinge joint in the elbow and knee, and gliding joint கால் இந்த பாத நகல்றது இல்லையா அது gliding joint. I hope you are listening. So this is for freely movable joint. One by one you will learn. சரியா? Now this I already explained this, but still I want you to go through the textbook. Right? Now freely movable joints allow free movement in one or more direction. Okay, freely movable joints allow free movement in one or more directions. Right? And their main function is to allow the body to perform variety of movements. And they are this type. கொஞ்சம் figure பாரு, கொஞ்சம் நல்ல புரியறாப்ல. All the 6 types. நம்ம textbookல there are only 4. Just follow. Can you? Sure. The next one, it is slightly movable joint. Slightly movable joint. What is it given? The bones of such slightly movable joints have an outer covering of cartilage. Can you see here? Cartilage, the blue color. The kirpadambar. That is outer covering of cartilage, allowing them to move slightly. Right? They are seen where flexible support is important. For example, joints of the backbone. சரியா? இந்த மேல் first diagram இருக்குல்ல, அது vertebral column. இது ஒரு vertebra, இது ஒரு vertebra, இது ஒரு vertebra. So in between them, they are attached to each other by ligaments, and these are as labeling ligament and cartilage இருக்குல்ல, அதான். Right? So the கீழே உள்ள diagram knee portion, முட்டு. மேல உள்ளது vertebral column. I hope you are listening. So this is vertebral column. அதுல தான் அந்த in between the space இது இருக்குல்ல, the arrow காட்டுறேன் பாரு. இது ஒரு vertebra, இது next vertebra. So the space between them, they are attached. Right? அதுல தான் ஏதாவது தேய்மானம் சொல்லுவோம்ல, முதுகு back pain people are suffering. People from the age group of 45 plus, they are suffering from என்ன சொல்றது, back pain. That is due to this slip disc சொல்லுவாங்க. இல்லைனாக்கா ஏதாவது fracture ஆனாக்க முதுகு தண்டு, இந்த spinal cord where the vertebral column is insert protecting, and the vertebral column slip ஆயிருக்கும், அது பேரு slip disc. இல்லைன்னா இந்த space between the two vertebrae, when they are not uniform, people are suffering from back pain. Sharia? So here it is given, slightly movable joints will show only little movement. They are held together by strong white cords or strap called ligaments and joined by cartilage. The red second figure la paru, red circle irukla, they are ligaments. Sharia? Cartilage is greasy cushion and stops the bone from knocking together. ஒண்ணுக்கு ஒண்ணு இடிச்சுக்காம இருக்கிறதுக்கு this cartilage is forming a cushion like structure. Second diagram bar blue labeling cartilage. Are you clear? So cartilage is a cushion and stops the bone from knocking together. Knocking together na rendu idichukama paathukiradhu. Joints between most of your vertebrae are slightly movable. Okay, the pads of cartilage between them act as a shock absorber, so the bones won't jar when you run or jump. I hope you understand. So, இது வந்து நல்ல protective-ஆ இருக்கிறதுனால when you run or walk or jump, it will not show any jerk. That is for slightly movable joint. Okay. So, the first diagram la vertebra clearer. The last part of this picture presentation la structure of typical vertebra சொல்லிருக்கேன். That I will explain further. I hope you understand. Shall I go to next? Now this is fixed or movable joint. Actually, this is first one. Fixed or movable joint. என்ன சொல்லிருக்கு? Bones at an immovable joint cannot move at all. Bones at an immovable joint cannot move at all. Right? They either interlock or overlap. They either interlock or overlap. Interlock na the labeling one ன்னு கொடுத்திருக்குதியா இந்த மண்டையோட ஸ்கல்லுல இந்த ஒரு மாதிரி zigzag line அதை மார்க் பண்ணி one ன்னு இருக்கு பாருங்க இல்லையா. They are called sutures. நான் first explain பண்ணேன் இல்லையா part 1 ல skull வந்து formed of immovable joints and they are joined to each other by a zigzag lines called sutures. Okay, so the one வந்து ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோ, it is suture. I hope you understand. So they either interlock or overlap. இது வந்து overlapping. Interlock. A good example of joint between the plates of the cranium. Plates of the cranium na the skull bone சொல்லிருக்கேன் இல்லையா. What are they? Skull bones are frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. I repeat, frontal, parietal, temporal and occipital. And with that, there are 14 facial bones. Right? Now, fused joints in the sacrum are another good example. Hip portion. Fused joints in the sacrum are another good example. Now, we have this type of joint in the areas requiring great strength. What does it mean? Now, the head is held high, yeah, and it is a very important organ. So, the head, the skull, it protects the brain. Same way, hip is another important portion where people are allowed to stand. That has to give great strength for the posture. Right? So, this is fixed or immovable joint. So, bones at an immovable joint cannot move at all. They either interlock or overlap. Good example, plates of the cranium, joints between the plates of the cranium, and fused joints in the sacrum are another good example. And we have this type of joint in areas requiring great strength. I hope you understand. So, this is for fixed or movable joint. Okay. The next one, actually, இது வந்து முன்னாடி அந்த fixed வந்து first வந்திருக்கணும் ஆர்டர்ல பரவாயில்ல. Now, first, this is freely movable joint. First type வந்து ball and socket joint. Freely movable joint la first type, it is ball and socket joint. என்ன சொல்றது? First one example, it is shoulder bone and hip bone. சரியா? and the shoulder bone in the first figure ல பாரு, the circle தெரியுதா? black circle. அதுல the collar bone, clavicle and flat bone, scapula is forming a cavity, glenoid cavity. சரியா? and இந்த ஒரு bone தெரியுதுல, that is humerus, upper arm. The head of humerus is fitting into this bone. So the head of humerus is forming a ball, and the clavicle and scapula with the glenoid cavity is forming the socket. So this is ball and socket joint. Example, shoulder and hip joints. I hope you follow. Same way, cricket தானே? ஆமா, டென்னிஸ் மாதிரி இருக்கு. அவனும் பால் அடிக்கிறான். அதுக்கு shoulder bone is ball and socket joint showing movement. Right? So it allows greatest range of movement. In this type of joint, head of bone is fitting into the socket of another bone and held together by ligaments and tendons. என்னர்த்தம்? Ligaments and tendons நாக்க, where two bones meet, those joints are ligaments. Those points are ligaments. And in some portion, the muscles are attached to the bones. They are called tendons. சரியா? So நம்ம இப்ப இந்த கை சொல்லும்போது இந்த இடம் வந்து muscles தான் action எடுக்கிறது இல்லையா? As such, skeletal, the movement in human, it is in coordination with the muscular system and skeletal system. Yeah? So especially movement of hand and legs, both muscular and skeletal system, they coordinate each other. சரியா? So that is with the என்ன சொல்றது? ball and socket joint. They held together by ligaments and tendons. I hope you understand. This is for first type of freely movable joint given in our textbook. Example, shoulder and hip joints. First type is ball and socket joint. Example, shoulder and hip joints. Right? அதேதான் ball and socket joint. கொஞ்சம் டீடைல்டா இருக்கு. இது வந்து hip portionல first வந்து நம்ம hand பார்த்தோம். இதுல வந்து hip portionல இது பாரு, இந்த ப்ளூ கலர் தெரியுதா? சர்க்கிள் டயக்ராம்ல அது வந்து தையோட ஹெட் போர்ஷன். ப்ரீவியஸ் இதுல வந்து ஹெட் ஆஃப் ஹியூமரஸ்னு படிச்சோம். இது வந்து ஹெட் ஆஃப் ஹியூமரஸ், சாரி, தை போர்ஷன், ஃபீமர் ஃபிட்டிங் இன்டு த பெல்விக் girdle. ஃபிகர் மட்டும் புரிஞ்சுக்கோ. ரைட்? ஸோ தி ball and socket joint allow you to move at 360-degree rotation. Example, hip and shoulder. And this is the joint which allows most range of movement. I hope you understand. So this is ball and socket joint. Next one is hinge joint. என்ன சொல்றது? hinge joint இந்த கை ஒரு பக்கம் தான் மூவ் பண்ண, பின்னாடி மூவ் பண்ண முடியாது இல்லையா? ஸோ இங்கே பாரு, ஒரு தனிக்குள்ள இருக்கான், கை காட்டுறாங்க. The red circle தெரியுதா? Second diagram. It will allow only movement in one direction. சரியா? So it's allow flexion and extension with only small amount of rotation. Example of hinge joint, elbow and knee joint. Elbow na இது முட்டை சொல்லும்ல, இது வந்து towards yours one side தான், it allows movement. Same way, knee-யும் backward தான் மூவ் பண்ண முடியும், forward மூவ் பண்ண முடியும். கை வந்து forward மூவ் பண்ணுவோம், backward மூவ் பண்ண முடியாது. முட்டு வந்து backward மூவ் பண்ணுவோம், இங்கே மூவ் பண்ண முடியாது. I hope you understand. So when I say give an example of hinge joint which allows forward and backward movement, என்ன சொல்லுவ? forward movement வந்து elbow joint and backward movement வந்து knee. Are you clear? So this is as hinge joint. Next one, pivot joint. Pivot na the kind of நடுவுல axisல rotate ஆகும் இல்லையா? So நம்ம கழுத்து வந்து இப்படி பண்ணலாம், இப்படி சுத்தி பண்ணிக்கலாம் இல்லையா? So that is pivot joint. It allows only rotation. இப்போ நம்ம நீங்க கூட ஸ்கூல் இப்படி நோட் புக் வச்சு கையில வச்சு சுத்துவீங்க, that is pivot. Right? So now pivot joint, the cylindrical surface of one bone rotates with a ring formed of bone and ligaments. Movement is limited to the rotation around central axis. Example, joints between proximal ends of radius and ulna. இந்த கை இருக்குல்ல, இந்த இப்படி சுத்துறோம்ல, அது radius and ulna. Same way, கழுத்துலையும் ஒன்றை இதை பண்ணணும். சரியா? So radius and ulna movement. So this is radius and ulna. Go through பண்ணு. Go through பண்ணு. This is pivot joint. I hope you understand. So now pivot joint. Pivot joint, the rounded structure of one bone fits into the ring formed by other bone. I repeat, pivot joint is a rounded structure at one bone fits into the ring formed by other bone. Now the range of movement of this type of joint is circular, up and down, side to side. Circular na இப்படி பண்ண முடியும், and up and down na இப்படி மேலேயும் கீழே பண்ண முடியும், side to side. இப்படி மண்டையை rotate பண்ண முடியும், side to side, up and down. That is pivot joint. These joints are present between the bones of the skull and the backbone. These joints are present between the bones of the skull and backbone. I hope you understand. So this is pivot joint. Next one, you try to fill up so far what we have learned. Types of joint. Just understand. Types of joint. First, dash joint, like in your neck, allows you to turn your head from side to side. Just now we learned. Is it pivot joint? Okay. This pivot joint, like in your neck, allows you to turn your head from side to side. Another pivot joint. Second one, dash joints like in a knee and elbow enable movement similar to opening and closing of hinge door. It is a hinge joint. So first one, pivot joint. Second one, hinge joint. Figure comes so you can identify easily. I hope you understand. The third one, dash joints in your thumb. Bones of these joints can rock back and forth from side to side, but they have limited rotation. Slightly movable joint. This is our type padikala illa as condyloid joint nu padichonde adu first figure la paatha nama indha type padikala, right? Then fourth one, dash joints is a joint at the base of your index finger, allow bending and extending, rocking from side to side, but rotation is limited. Adena idu condyloid and paddle joint nu padichukkom adu. Seriya? And then fifth one, dash joints occurs between the surface of the two short bones that are held together by ligaments. Some of the bones in your wrist and ankle have limited range of motion. சரியா? இதுல இந்த ஹேண்டில் லேபிளிங் நன்னா இருக்கு பாரு. ரேடியஸ் அல்னா the fifth blank கீழே பாரு. diagram is good. Radius and ulna, wrist bone, phalanges. The palm நல்ல clearer. That you please understand. சரியா? Then sixth one, dash and dash joints like your hip and shoulder are the most mobile type of joint in human body. Mobile type na showing movement. They allow to swing or rotate your arms and legs in many different directions. I hope you understand. So this is ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint. I hope you understand. So try to fill up this 6 blanks. And 3, 4 வந்து நம்ம 2 types நம்ம படிக்கணும். bookல கிடையாது. But it is as condyloid and saddle joint. I hope you follow. The next one, in the given figure, the movement of elbow joint shows how two muscles, biceps and triceps, work antagonistically, அதாவது in opposite direction. To bend, அதாவது flexible, and stretch, it can extend. Blend and it can stretch. I hope you follow. So I repeat, the movement of the elbow joint shows how two muscles called biceps and triceps work antagonistically. That means in opposite direction to bend and stretch the arm at hinge joint of the elbow. இங்க பாரு, நம்ம இப்படி கையை வச்சுக்கிறோம்ல, இப்படி கை வச்சுட்டாக்க இங்க வந்து இப்படி நம்ம மடக்கிறோம் இல்லையா? So this is as bending. இதுதான் பெண்ட் பண்ணும்போது இந்த tricepsum bicepsum muscle காட்டும். இந்த ஃபிகர்ல பாரு, triceps relaxed and biceps contract. Okay, so here it is as the arm flexed, the hinge joint labeling part. I hope you understand. Same way, arm extend ஆகுது, biceps relax ஆகும், triceps contract. The diagram clear ஆகுது, so நல்லா புரிஞ்சுக்கும். நம்ம bookல இருக்கு இது 8.17, but labeling is not there. Okay, so இதை correlate பண்ணிக்கும். So this is arm folding as biceps contract, triceps relax. When arm is stretched, opposite, reverse, biceps relax, triceps contract. I hope you follow. So that's it's given in the given figure. The movement of elbow joint shows how two muscles, biceps and triceps, work antagonistically in opposite direction to bend and stretch the arm at the hinge joint of the elbow. The muscle that lies above the upper arm is biceps, and muscle on the back of the upper arm is called tricep muscle. And the biceps can be seen and felt bulged when you flex your arm and elbow and get relaxed when you extend your arm. சரியா? So now biceps நான் என்ன சொல்லிருக்கேன்? There are two bundle of muscles. Biceps வந்து two bundle of muscles. Whereas triceps வந்து three bundle of muscles. I hope you understand. So this is for muscles contract and relaxation. muscles contract and relaxation. Are you clear? So இதுல வந்து இன்னொரு description இருக்கு. Bones and muscles work together to help the body move. I repeat, bones and muscles work together to help the body move. சரியா? Now the muscles that help in the locomotion are attached to the bones, while some muscles work alone. The muscles contract and relax to bring about the movement. சரியா? இங்க நமக்கு ஒரு சின்ன description, just listen. Muscles are of two types: voluntary muscle that are controlled by our willpower, and involuntary muscle which are not under the control of our willpower. Now all voluntary actions, they are formed by voluntary muscles. சரியா? Now the voluntary muscles work in pairs to bring about movement. Voluntary muscles work in pairs to bring about movement. சரியா? So it is said, when one muscle contracts, the other relaxes. Yeah. So one muscle is called flexor and another one is called extensor. One is called flexor and another one is called extensor. The relaxed மதிலுக்கு பேரு extensor. The two terms புரிஞ்சுக்கோ. Right? So I repeat, when one muscle contracts, the other relaxes. So the one muscle is called flexor and the other is called extensor. நம்ம bookல இல்லை, ஆனா புரிஞ்சுக்கோ. Right? Now flexor muscles bend a joint and move the bones towards each other. And extensor muscles straighten the joint and move the bones away from each other. சரியா? Now this is what happens when one bend or straighten our arms. I hope you are clear. Now muscles are connected to bones with the help of band-like tissue called tendons. சொல்லிருக்கேன்ல, muscles are attached to the bones with the help of muscle tissue called tendons. I hope you follow. இந்த diagram வந்து நல்ல clear-ஆ இருக்கு. I repeat, in our textbook diagram 8.17, diagram is given but no labeling. So with this diagram labeling, you please mark it in our textbook. 6th standard, I hope you are listening. Shall I go to next? Then as example of flexor and extensor, arms, biceps are flexor and triceps of muscles are extensor. இதை note பண்ணிக்கோ. armsல வந்து biceps are flexors and triceps are extensor. சரியா? Whereas legsல வந்து hamstring and shin muscles are flexor and thigh and calf muscles are extensor. Thigh and calf muscles சொல்லுவோம்ல, thighல உள்ள muscle பேரு extensor. I hope you understand. So this is for movement of the arms. Two muscles work together. I hope you understand. The next one is human skeletal system. என்ன சொல்றது? Classification as axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. We have just learned in the beginning of the lesson, part 1. And axial skeleton, it is formed of skull, vertebral column, ribs and sternum. Yeah. And skull வந்து description as facial bone, hole for the eye, nasal bone, maxilla upper jaw, mandible வந்து lower jaw. சரியா? Whereas appendicular skeleton, it is formed of pectoral girdle and bones of the upper limb, and pelvic girdle, bones of the lower limb. Otherwise, bones of the hind limb. Pectoral girdle, upper limb வந்து forelimb, lower limb வந்து hind limb னு சொல்லுவோம். I hope you follow. So this is just classification of human skeletal system, what you already learned, right? And the vertebral column, I learned the cervical, thoracic, nama padichirukom illaya, cervical, thoracic, sacrum, coccygeal, ஞாபகம் வருதா? cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum and coccygeal. Yeah, these are the 5 regions of the vertebral column. I am just recollecting these points, that's all. Right? The next one, it is structure of a typical vertebra. Now, actually, part 2 the description mudichirukana. Now I got this picture clearly, so I am showing this, right? So this is structure of a typical vertebra, where it has a central body called centrum. This refer to the labeling centrum, CENTRUM. It has a central body or centrum with 3 points, 1, 2, 3. Right? Now the 3 points are the middle spinous processes and the 2 sides are transverse processes. I repeat, the centrum is branching into 3 arcs like this, more or less a cone shape. Yeah, with that center spinous processes and 2 transverse processes. I hope you understand. And then there is a center hole called vertebral foramen, through which the spinal cord is passing on. Through the inside the vertebral column, spinal cord is getting protected. So through this, the spinal cord is passing on. And then the 2 projection pere vertebral arch. I hope you understand. இந்த spinous projection தான் நம்ம முதுகுல அப்படி துருத்தின்னு இருக்கும் இல்லையா, இந்த spinous process தான் நம்ம முதுகுல துருத்தின்னு இருக்கிற vertebral portion. So this is the structure of typical vertebra. Go through the diagram. நான் இந்த description வந்து அதுல நிறைய கொடுத்திருக்கேன் previous videosல. With that you can refer. இந்த diagram வந்து உனக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கணும் for diagram question. Structure of typical vertebra. I hope you understand. And then with reference to skeletal system, you should understand another term called X-ray. Nama book la irukku. X-rays are the rays that can pass through the muscles and tissues but not through the bones. Therefore, they are used to obtain images that show shapes of the bones in our body. By looking at an X-ray image, a doctor can decide whether bone has been injured or not. So, அந்த X-ray image நம்ம textbook la irukku, adha pathiyum nee padichirukkanum. I hope you understand. So this is our video number 16, body movement part 4. Next we will continue the lesson with movement in animals as movement in earthworm, cockroach, snake, fish, snake and birds in following videos. I hope you are able to follow this. Go through the lesson, understand the lesson. We'll continue in the next video session. Have a good day. Have a nice day. Thank you.